Welcome to another episode of In the Bleachers, the sports show for the sports fans. Hi, everybody. I'm Eric Rosen. Usually beside me is Mr. Jamie the Sportsman Hickson, but he should be here any moment. But for the time being, I'll take you through all the latest news that's been happening in the world of sports in the past week. Welcome on this Monday, September 12th, 2016. I'm Eric Rosen. And we got a lot of things to cover. Let's start, of course, with the opening week of the NFL season. And boy, was it a great first week for football, especially on Thursday night when we had the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos in the first ever Super Bowl rematch since 1970. And all it took was for Trevor Siemian and company to take down the Carolina Panthers and win in a huge spot in the first game on Thursday football. And I'll tell you, Trevor Siemian in the first two possessions, getting the ball fumbled off of their rookie Kevontae Booker, who came out of Utah, on a stripped pass from Luke Kuechly. And then the second possession, of course, the interception off of Siemian on a tip pass. But afterwards, when they came back in the second half, including that pass that Siemian threw to C.J. Anderson in stride on the right sideline, was huge. And that was the turning point in the game, was the second half for the Denver Broncos. And the missed field goal attempt by Graham Gano. So it was fun to watch. Definitely fun to watch Denver win that game. But it wasn't fun for one Cameron Newton. Why? He didn't get hit not once, not twice, but 3 times in the head. Where the hell were the referees? Where was the NFL on this? Aren't they all about player safety and making sure that concussions are reduced, or CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, the very disease that was discovered by Dr. Amalu? If you watch the movie Concussion, a really good film about the CTE issue got started, that Will Smith portrayed very well, by the way, you would see that CTE is something that's undetected by modern magnetic resonant imaging, but can adversely affect a player. Not immediately after their career, but years after. And the last thing we need to do is have Cameron Newton on the roadmap to having CTE. And unfortunately, for some reason, the Panthers just kept him in the game, even after the second hit. And you notice, even on the third hit, when he was knocked head on, he was called for intentional grounding. What are you expecting the guy? After he gets hit the third time in the head, he's not going to see clearly. The Panthers should have forcefully taken him out of the game and not left it up to his own devices. Because when you leave it up to a player to make a decision after getting knocked in the head 3 times, they're going to pridefully say, "Oh, keep me in. I'm fine. I'm fine." No, you're not fine. We could tell, especially the way your hands were wobbling, we could definitely tell you weren't fine. And who knows what's going to happen in their home opener this week if he's going to even be able to play. So it really makes me mad that the NFL didn't do a better job in this situation, and neither did the Carolina Panthers doctors on the sideline. And, if it was a shoulder-to-shoulder level hit, that's legal. But, all right, getting beyond that incident, there were some other games that we should get into, starting with outside the New York area. Let's start with in Jacksonville, Florida. The Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the visiting Green Bay Packers, the team that lost their division crown, their NFC North division crown, after having a 4-year streak of winning it from 2011 to 2014. But in 2015, the Minnesota Vikings took over. This time, however, the Packers started their season off in the right way, including Aaron Rodgers and his 2 touchdown passes. One, of course, to Jordy Nelson, welcome back after a year absence from that ACL injury, and another to Devontae Adams, and he ran in for a score himself, leading the Packers to a 27-23 victory. Nelson, of course, Jordy Nelson finished with 6 receptions for 32 yards, had a 6-yard TD in the second quarter. If you're not familiar with Jordy Nelson's work, this was a guy who in 2014 had over 1,000 yards for Aaron Rodgers. 1,000 receiving yards, and was really reliable. He was the guy who made them one of the top 5 offenses in the league in 2014. They went from that to being a 25th ranked offense, 23rd ranking offense without him. So you can't mistake that Jordy Nelson's impact is huge in that Green Bay Packers offense. But you also have to give it up for the Jacksonville Jaguars and the way they played. Their pass rush still needs some seasoning for sure. They didn't really get to Rodgers very well. The Packers O-line did a great job in giving Rodgers enough time to throw the ball to move his feet in the pocket and throw the ball. And on top of all that, it was just a really great showing for him, including that 29-yard touchdown throw to Devontae Adams. And Eddie Lacy, after having weight issues in the offseason, consulted Tony Robbins Tony Horton, the founder of P90X, and he lost a significant amount of weight, and he rushed for 70 yards from scrimmage. That was huge. So it was a really great game for all the Packer players and for the Jaguars to really to stick it in there, including an attempt in the fourth quarter towards the end. Unfortunately, Alan Hearns, one of the two members of the A team along with Allen Robinson, failed to move the sticks on a bubble screen pass in the fourth quarter, and they lost 27-23. So it wasn't great for Jacksonville to lose, but at the same time, they're not the Jaguars team that you can easily beat by double-digit points. This is a new era in Jacksonville. I'm so excited. Now let's go to the Baltimore Ravens, who last year missed the playoffs for the first time in the John Harbaugh, Joe Flacco era. Started off the right way with their first victory at home in over 3 years, since 2012 in 4 years. And they defeated the Buffalo Bills. And there was a bit of a connection from the Bills with the Ravens. Head coach Rex Ryan for the Bills was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens, was part of their coaching staff from 1999-2008, the year before he left to become the Jets head coach. Then you had Ed Reed, who's actually a legendary safety on the Ring of Honor for Baltimore, is now on the coaching staff for the Ravens. On top of all that, Tyrod Taylor, the starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, who got a nice extension on his contract, is the starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, was a backup for Joe Flacco for 4 years. Got sacked twice in this game, and the only score he was able to get was a scoring strike to one LaShawn McCoy. It was 33-yard pass to Charles Clay, set the 1-yard touchdown pass to touchdown run by LaShawn Shady McCoy on fourth down in the first half. And the turning point, really, the big touchdown play was the 66-yard touchdown made in stride over the middle to Mike Wallace from Joe Flacco. It was huge to see Joe Flacco back for the first time since, I believe it was week 9 last year when he had that bad leg ACL injury that took him out for the rest of the year. So really, it's awesome to see Joe Flacco back in a Ravens uniform and see Terrell Suggs on the defense. And not only that, Mike Wallace, congratulations, you're finally the receiver that we all knew you were back in Pittsburgh in 2012. So it was a great effort. They ended up winning 13-7. By the way, Justin Tucker, 2 huge field goals, 1 from 50-plus yards. Let's go to the Houston Texans and the debut of Brock Osweiler after signing a 4-year deal for $72 million. Well, really, after his first, shaking off the cobwebs with an interception on his first possession, was able to get a huge, some big passes, including one to Will Fuller V on a short pass where he scampered for 18 yards for the crucial game-changing touchdown that made them go from being down 14-13 to leading 20-14. Eventually, they won the game 23-14. Congratulations to the Texans. For the Chicago Bears, ouch. Jay Cutler sacked 5 times. That offensive line is in some serious trouble for the rest of the year. As for the game in Philadelphia, the Cleveland Browns got creamed 29-10 in the debut of Carson Wentz, the second-round overall pick out of North Dakota State. Had some big touchdown passes, including one to Jordan Matthews from 19 yards out and a 35-yarder on the right sideline to Nelson Aguilar, the second-year wide receiver out of USC, which gave them a 22-10 lead in the third quarter. I think the turning point was when Cleveland was down actually 10-7 in the second half, and Cameron Irving, the new center replacing Alex Mack on the Cleveland Browns offensive line, throws the ball, snaps the ball way over RG3's head, causing the safety that basically turned the whole game around. And instead of tying it, potentially trying to get the game tied at 10-7, or at least taking the lead, they ended up giving up more points to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's just more the same. the 25th quarterback in the graveyard of Cleveland quarterbacks since 1999. And unfortunately, he now has a shoulder injury in his non-throwing arm. He's going to be out possibly till Week 10. As for the Eagles, what a big victory to come out with for Carson Wentz. Now let's go to the Georgia Dome when the Falcons took on their division rival Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Jameis Winston, 4 touchdown passes on the day, coming back from a huge deficit in the first half. And boy, did he really shine. 4 touchdowns to 4 different receivers, including Mike Evans, Charles Sims on a huge pass in stride where he broke away from 2 defenders who knocked into each other on the right sideline, broke 2 more tackles, and got the touchdown. And what's awesome about this game was, after the first interception that Jameis Winston had, the fact that he was able to come back, throw 4 big touchdown passes, and lead his team to victory over 31-24 in the Georgia Dome. Huge. Congratulations to Jameis Winston. Man, he really is. He's going to shine very well in Dirk Cutter's system, and overall, congratulations to that guy in his debut. Now let's go to the Minnesota Vikings in Tennessee. Tennessee was leading in the first half, but all it took was 2 mistakes in the second half by Marcus Mariota, a 77-yard pick six and a 24-yard fumble return touchdown on a bad handoff from Mariota to DeMarco Murray, and they ended up losing 25-16. Let's not mistake, Sean Hill was the starter for the team, but the majority of those 25 points that Minnesota scored was on defense, at least 14 of those points. So I'm not going to exactly give Sean Hill the vote of confidence just yet, replacing Teddy Bridgewater, who broke his leg August 30th and is done for the year, unfortunately. As for Sam Bradford, I hope they put him in soon. He still needs to learn the Minnesota offensive system, but at least they got to win out of the gate, despite the 39 yards and 13 carries 31 yards and 19 carries that Adrian Peterson had. As for the Titans, get it together. Get it together for the rest of the year, especially at home. They've been 1-7 at home the last 2 years. Now let's go to the New Orleans Saints, the Oakland Raiders. And what a gutsy call by Jack Del Rio, second-year coach for the Oakland Raiders. They're down 34-33 after after the 10-yard touchdown pass from Derek Carr to Seth Roberts. Instead of going for the field goal to tie the game up at 34-all, forcing overtime, Jack Del Rio made the gutsy call for the 2-point conversion from Carr to Michael Crabtree, and it worked out. They ended up winning the game 35-34, despite the last attempt effort by the New Orleans Saints, in which, of course, their kicker missed a 61-yard field goal wide left. Barely wide left. The fans in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome actually thought the field goal was good, and they cheered too happily as though the field goal was good when it wasn't. So New Orleans lost 35-34. Congratulations to the Raiders. It looks like things are going in the right direction after all. As for the San Diego Chargers Kansas City Chiefs game, what a rally for the Chiefs. They're down 3 touchdown scores, and what happens? The Chiefs go on a second half binge, courtesy of Alex Smith, including a back shoulder fade pass to Jeremy Maclin with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It's unbelievable. And Cairo Santos, 33-yard field goal just a few minutes later. And then after a 3-and-out, Spencer Ware on a 4-play drive gets a touchdown punch to tie the game up at 27-all. It was just enforcing overtime. And then on a 1-yard scamper play from Alex Smith, gets the game-winning score. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable from this entire team. And really, for Spencer Ware, 199 all-purpose yards without Jamal Charles, their number 1 leading back, who's still recovering from that ACL injury and the offseason surgery he had. But they won 33-27 over KC in overtime. I feel really bad for Keenan Allen. He tore his ACL up. This is a guy who had a fractured lung injury last year, and now the fact that he tore his ACL, he's done for the season, and that really stymied the Chargers offense. But you know what? on the flip side, kudos to Melvin Gordon. First 2 touchdowns of his NFL career. Now going out west, Miami Dolphins taking on the Seattle Seahawks. And there is really little, if any, offense in the Pacific Northwest. And I just can't believe the Miami Dolphins, coming all the way from South Florida to go to the Pacific Northwest, talk about frequent flyer miles. Well, in the fourth quarter, that's where the offense really took shape for the Seahawks. Even on a hobbled ankle of Russell Wilson, that was actually caused on a third quarter play by Ndamukong Suh, the defensive lineman for the Miami Dolphins, rolling up on him in the third quarter. But still, manages on that hobbled ankle to get a huge 2-yard touchdown pass in the right corner of the end zone to Doug Baldwin for the game-winning score. They ended up winning 12-10. Even despite Ryan Tannehill throwing a nice pass over the middle to Jarvis Landry, 28 yards. Still, a 28-yard pass to Jarvis Landry. Then Damon Williams going for 29 to get to the Seattle 2. 2 plays later, Ryan Tannehill himself plunges across the goal line on a design draw play. They still ended up losing 12-10. Hopefully things will be better for Miami, but I have to say they are still my wild card pick. As for the Seattle Seahawks, I think it should have been a lot better offensively, but it's the first game. Let's see how the rest of the season goes. Now to another exciting game, the Detroit Lions, Indianapolis Colts. Matt Prater, even after missing the extra point on a 13-yard, after Theo Riddick got a 13-yard touchdown pass from Matthew Stafford, they were up 34-28. Matt Prater misses the extra point from 33 yards out. So that sets up Andrew Luck on another heroic game-winning touchdown. And he ends up getting a pass to, of all people, Jack Doyle for the second time on a route down the middle. They're up 35-34 after the extra point is made by Adam Vinatieri. This sets up another heroic possession coming up for Matthew Stafford. And he gets them down the field for Matt Prater, and he delivers a 43-yard game-winning field goal. They're up 37-35. And then at the end of the game, unfortunately, Indy was called for an illegal forward pass in the end zone, which resulted in a 2-point safety given to the Detroit Lions. They ended up winning 39-35. Not a great way for Indy to start their regular season off, but you know what? I have to give it. Andrew Luck is always clutch. Despite an offensive line that is never consistent or is like a slot machine, really, because you get different offensive linemen every week for some reason. And that's what resulted in Luck's injuries last year. But I think this year they'll contend for either a wild card or the division. Either way, they'll be in it. That's for sure. As for the Detroit Lions, a good way to start the year off. Now, the Jimmy Garoppolo era got into full swing last night when the New England Patriots went to the desert to take on the Arizona Cardinals on the first Sunday night game on NBC. And Jimmy Garoppolo delivered with a 23-21 victory. And even without Tom Brady for the first 4 games, despite not having one of the best tight ends in the entire NFL, Rob Gronkowski, despite not having Rob Ninkovich, their stud pass rusher, who is not only injured but suspended for the first 4 games. Despite all of the obstacles that New England had, they always seem to overcome the odds, as always. They are a movie unto themselves, if you will. And in Garoppolo's first NFL start, he gets the Patriots from their own 19 to the Arizona 15 yards, setting up the Stephen Gostkowski 23-yard field goal that ends up being the game winner. Why? After that play, and that was with about 3:44 to go in the game, then Arizona gets the ball back. They kill off most of the clock, setting up what should have been the game-winning field goal from Chandler Catanzaro, but he misses 47 yards wide left. And what happened was it was a really bad snap, an incredibly bad snap, unfortunately, taken, and a bad hold, too, by their rookie holder. And after that, it was just, after the bad hold and snap, that's where bad field goals take place from. It's not always the kicker's fault. Sometimes there are so many factors that come into place with a bad field goal. And I just mentioned bad snapping, bad holding, wind direction or lack of wind direction, the way that you kick the ball. There's so many factors, but I'm not going to get too much into it. But I will say this. It was great seeing Larry Fitzgerald getting 2 big touchdown catches from Carson Palmer. Really, there is no father time with him. This guy is ageless to me. He's like a fine wine. He gets better and better and better with age. And by the way, congratulations, Larry Fitzgerald, on getting your degree from the University of Phoenix earlier this year. Yeah, he got his PhD. Not only is he a great receiver, but he's also a very studious person and wants to learn. And I admire that about him. This was a guy who, after was a ball boy for the Minnesota Vikings when he was a teenager, and now the fact that he went from being the ball boy to being a great receiver, kudos to him as well. And I gotta give it up for LeGarrette Blount too. He really, especially when they were down 10-7, he bulls in for the Patriots in the first half and gives them the 17-7 lead with about 10 minutes left in the first quarter. Like, New England was never down in this game. They only were down one time with about 9:46 remaining, and that was when Larry Fitzgerald got the touchdown. Anyway, congrats to New England on a good first start without Brady, and for Jimmy Garoppolo on getting his first career start and victory. As for the Cardinals, I do expect a little better, and I think they'll definitely be in the race for the NFC West. Now let's go to the New York team, starting on the road in Dallas, Texas. Dak Prescott, first career NFL start in place of Tony Romo, who has third spinal injury. Week 2 of the preseason against Seattle, Cliff Averill comes from behind, hits him from behind with a tackle that forced him out of the game, and therefore is keeping him out of this regular season, possibly for 6 weeks. Some say 10 to 12. It depends on who you ask. But the fact is, Prescott had to start, and you had Ezekiel Elliott as the starting running back. This is the first time the Cowboys have had a rookie starting running back and quarterback tandem since 1969, when you had the likes of Roger Staubach and Calvin Hill. So this is really unprecedented for the Cowboys to have 2 rookies and 2 very key offensive positions starting. But it was really for Dak Prescott, it was out of necessity, because who else you got? Mark Sanchez? Really? That's your starter? No. Even though they traded for him, that was really an insurance policy, but that's not really much of an insurance policy if you ask me or any Jet fan. Now, as for the New York Giants, what a huge way to kick the year off, including Eli Manning's 3 touchdown passes, including the game winner to one salsa dance machine, Mr. Victor Cruz. That's right. It was unbelievable what he did. A 3-yard touchdown catch with about 6 minutes remaining in the game, which proved to be the game winner. And cha-cha-cha, cha-cha-cha, cha-cha-cha. First time in 2 years this guy has 2 years it took him to finally do a salsa dance. He had a ACL, he had a leg injury in 2014, calf injury all of 2015. To see this guy be able to come back from that is huge, and he should be a candidate for comeback player of the year. I think he will for sure. As for the rest of, as for Randy Bullock, even despite missing an earlier point after attempt, he still got a big field goal for the Giants. So I'm really happy for the entire Giants organization, and for Odell Beckham, who had the 45-yard touchdown catch for his yarder to Beckham to set up the first TD of the game. And even Sterling Shepard, my favorite play, Manning out of the shotgun, throws to the right sideline, to the right corner of the end zone. Shepard leaps up over safety, catches the ball between the safety, right near the safety's, the back of the safety's head, and still manages to come down with the pass. Unbelievable. The Giants are on the road right now. They're 1-0. They're my team to win the NFC East for sure. And they open actually this week at home against the Saints, who are reeling from that loss. So this is going to be bombs away, folks, because you're going to expect an aerial attack of epic proportions with Eli Manning and Drew Brees. By the way, Drew Brees in the loss this week has 14th career 400-yard game. I forgot to mention that ties Peyton Manning for the most in NFL history. Now going from happiness to sadness for Jet fans. That's right, and especially for me, who was there yesterday and having to witness the New York Jets lose 23-22 by 1 point, and of all people, Nick Folk, who messed up the most, really messed up the most. missing a field goal, which is typically a chip shot for most people, and on the extra point. 4 points he left off the board for the Jets that were the difference between winning and losing. And the fact that Darrelle Revis couldn't contain A.J. Green that much. In fact, A.J. Green had 12 catches for 180 yards, which for any fantasy owners out there, wow. On 13 targets, by the way. That's even more insane than that. And the fact that he even hauled in a 54-yard touchdown grab is unbelievable. Then what killed me was in the second half. On 3rd and 18, the Jets gave up a big 49-yard pass from Andy Dalton to Brandon LaFell when they could have easily had them 3 and out and done off the field. That ended up setting up a touchdown for a score for the Cincinnati Bengals. It just really upset me. Honestly, I think I'm not the only one alone. Every Jet fan was upset watching that game. Fitzpatrick, you know what? He did everything he could. He threw a pass to Nua and Decker, but Marshall, where was Marshall? So many times, especially on the second time that the Jets were in the red zone, after a Bengals defensive penalty, 2 times that Fitzpatrick threw to Marshall, and he just couldn't haul it in. This is a 6'5" guy who should be able to haul these kinds of passes in. I don't know. But at the end, what killed me was after the Bengals had the go-ahead field goal and they were up 23-22, Josh Shaw gets the game-ending interception off of Fitzpatrick, and that's it. And that was, of course, that was the 7th victory for Marvin Lewis of 14 home openers. That's right, 14 years Marvin Lewis has been in the league. And the Bengals right now need a victory this year in the playoffs. Now, they need to, make the playoffs and get a victory. If they can't do that for the 6th straight year, Marvin Lewis, his butt is gone from Cincinnati, and they're going to find somebody else that can. As for Todd Bowles, I think Nick Folk is going to definitely keep him up at night, including why? Well, he shouldn't be thinking too long about that because he's got to think about game playing. And the reason I say that, in 3 days, the first Thursday night game of the season on CBS, not of the year, but on CBS coming up, the Jets will be in Buffalo. Buffalo's reeling from that 13-6 loss, and now they're going to be without Sammy Watkins too. So whoever Darrelle Revis has to guard, whether it be Robert Woods or any of the other, or Charles Clay, he's going to have to think about. Whoever it is that he's going to have to look to defend against, he's going to have to do a better job defensively this time than he did against A.J. Green. As for the running game itself, keep that pressure. Keep feeding the ball to Matt Forte, which the Jets did yesterday. That was one of the few bright spots. Matt Forte had over 100 all-purpose yards. In fact, I think he tied for 11th most receptions for a running back in NFL history yesterday. I believe it was his 184th reception. It was unbelievable. And by the way, I loved being at the game yesterday just for the fact that I was with my mom. Granted, they lost. I love you, Mom. It was great being with you at the game, and I can't wait to go to the Seahawks game with my mom on October 2nd when that comes up. But anyway, getting back to the Thursday night game, yeah, they got to pound the ball. Revis has got to do a better job at cornerback, and really, Marshall has to be a part of the game plan. He's going to be going up against Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore, who did a terrible job against Mike Wallace. In their 13-6 loss against Baltimore. Marshall's got to do the same thing. Try to get behind Stephon Gilmore in stride, get him confused at the line of scrimmage, push off a little, go behind him, and run like the wind. If he can do that and Fitzpatrick can find him down the sideline, then right there, the Jets are going to get the victory. As for Buffalo, if they want to win this game, you got to keep Forte from doing what he does best, as well as Powell. They got to really stymie the Jets' run offense. 2, their defensive line with some significant absences, that Bills' defensive line is going to have to penetrate the right side of the line and really get in Fitzpatrick's face and force him to make mistakes. And 3, LaShawn McCoy, they got to pound the ball, ground and pound. So those are my 3 steps for both the Bills and the Jets to win this week. All right. I'll give you my predictions on Friday's show. So let's go into some other stuff that took place over the week. UFC 203. Stipe Miocic, the current UFC heavyweight champion from Cleveland, Ohio, defeated Alistair Overeem, the long-standing veteran, in the first round, knocking him out with punches. It was in the first round, 4 minutes, 27 seconds into it. Then Fabricio Verdum, who could be the next contender for the heavyweight championship, defeated Travis Brown by unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-27, 30-27, all 3 rounds. In the welterweight section, Mickey Gall defeated CM Punk. If that name is not familiar to you, if you're not a wrestling fan, well, CM Punk, former WWE wrestler, after 2 years of training, had his first debut MMA match, and he failed miserably. He got rear naked choked badly. 2 minutes, 14 seconds into the first round of the match, his clock was cleaned. I think he now realizes that it was a mistake to even try MMA, that maybe he should go crawling back to Vince McMahon, apologize for walking out on Monday Night Raw in 2014, half hour before the show, and beg for his job back. And honestly, CM Punk, WWE needs you back in the worst way possible. So I think it would be a marriage made in heaven. Don't stick with MMA anymore. Trust me, do yourself a favor. At least in WWE, everything is sort of scripted when you're getting your butt kicked. In MMA, there's no script. You're getting your ass handed to you. Sorry I said that word, but you're getting your butt handed to you. It's just unbelievable. As for Jimmy Rivera in the bantamweight division defeated the veteran Uriah Faber by unanimous decision, 30-27 for all 3 judges in all 3 rounds. And in the women's strawweight division, Jessica Andrade from Brazil defeats Joanna Calderwood from Norway via submission, guillotine choke. 4 minutes, 38 seconds into the first round. That's all the results of UFC 203. Speaking of fights, WWE Backlash took place last night from Richmond, Virginia. In the pre-show, Baron Corbin defeats Apollo Crews with the end of days maneuver via pinfall. Then the show begins. The first ever WWE Women's SmackDown 6-pack championship match takes place, and Becky Lynch puts the disarmor on Carmella. If you're a wrestling fan, you know Carmella. She claims to be the princess of Staten Island. She is an insult, all right, to Staten Island. She really is insulting Staten Islanders all across. So I think WWE should honestly apologize to Staten Islanders for even having this character in the first place. But nonetheless, I'm happy that Becky Lynch won the match doing the disarmor. Now she's the first ever SmackDown Women's Champ. Good luck on your title reign. The Usos, who now are heels and no longer good guys, defeated the Hype Brothers in the first of 2 matches to determine who will win the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Then in the Intercontinental title match, it was The Miz who defeated Dolph Ziggler with the final cut on the pin via pinfall. Before the pinfall even took place, Maurice, who is the manager of valet for The Miz and real life and wife in the real world, sprayed Dolph Ziggler in the face with mace or hairspray or whatever it was, so The Miz could actually win the match. Yeah, we know there's a rematch coming in the future. As for the WWE Tag Team Finals, it was the team of, I can't believe I'm even saying this, Heath Slater and Rhino. Rhino taking a break from his political run for the 15th District of Michigan, now back in WWE, tag teams with Heath Slater against the Usos. And guess what? Heath Slater and Rhino won. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, folks. Heath Slater and Rhino won. Who would have thought that? Now they are the new current tag team champions of SmackDown, while the Usos are going to be looking for payback. Kane was the last-minute replacement against Bray Wyatt, because earlier in the day, Randy Orton, who was originally scheduled to face Bray Wyatt, was not medically cleared to be in this match. And this stems from his fight with Brock Lesnar at SmackDown back in August, late August at the Barclays Center, in which Brock Lesnar landed some heavy punches on Randy Orton's head so badly that he was bleeding profusely all over the ring. And And one of his stitches actually just reopened, so the doctors would not medically clear Randy to fight in this match. So instead, they had Kane. The fans were not happy whatsoever. They were pissed. You could tell they wanted Randy Orton. But fans, you got to understand, Randy is in his middle 30s. He's maybe got a shelf life of a few years left in WWE. Honestly, I think he should just hang up his boots for good, retire, and just try and save his life instead of risking it and possibly doing more damage than he needs to. But I know the pride always goes before the fall with a lot of these wrestlers. Let's just hope that your pride doesn't lead to your fall, because I love you, Randy. I respect you, man. I don't want anything bad happening to you. But anyway, Kane defeats Bray Wyatt via pinfall with the chokeslam. And the main event for the WWE World Championship, defending champion Dean Ambrose takes on my favorite guy, Mr. AJ Styles. I wish I had my gloves with me, but I don't. With the style, and this time AJ Styles, when the referee's not even looking, kicks Dean Ambrose in the groin, then puts Dean Ambrose through the Styles Clash. AJ Styles pins Dean Ambrose, wins the championship. Good news for him. Very happy about that. Now let's go to the Staten Island Yankees. A bit of sad news. The Staten Island Yankees will be changing their name. But before we get into that, let's start with the week they had. They went up. The final game of the year took place last Monday on Labor Day, and they won 5-2. Especially when they were trailing 2-1. It was Don Thompson Williams with the solo home run that tied the game up at 2-2. Then they added 3 in the 7th inning with a 2-run double from Nathan McCullough, which garnered the Staten Island Yankees the lone wild card spot in the New York Penn League playoffs. Let's go to Wednesday, Game 1, New York Penn League semifinal against the State College Spikes. The Spikes, the team that had the best record in the New York Penn League with 50 wins, takes the first game winning 3-0 with a combined 5-hit shutout from Brian Dobzhansky and Jacob LiLorenzo. Yeah, actually a combined 5-hit shutout, and they ended up winning 3-0. State College was led 1-0 on a 2-out single by Vince Jackson, Jeremy Martinez, and Ryan McCarville in the top of the first inning. Game 2, of course, goes into the 10th inning, and it was the Staten Island Yankees with the game-winning hit by Drew Bridges in the 10th inning after even a 46-minute rain delay, a home run over the right field fence. That evens the series up, forcing Game 3 on Friday. And as you know it, the Yankees were up ahead 5-2, and it was Ryan McCarville with the 2-run homer that capped a 4-run rally for the State College Spikes in the bottom of the 7th inning. And State College ended up winning 6-5 and therefore won the series 2-1, ending the Staten Island Yankees season for good. State College right now began their championship series against the Hudson Valley Renegades. I'll get you more information next week on who won that series. But as to the Staten Island Yankees, now there is a putrid excuse of a contest going on where there are 5 names that could be chosen for the new name brand, which honestly, again, makes me want to upchuck. Here are some of the names. Bridge Trolls, the Pizza Rats, the Rock Pigeons, the Killer Bees, and maybe the least puking of the 5 names, the Heroes. To the owner, Will Smith, team president, please read my lips very carefully. Listen to what I'm saying. This is not going to change why a lot of the fans didn't come to the Staten Island Yankees. If you want to change things, the parking situation didn't help you. That's for one. The promotions can be better. There were some that were good, some that were terrible. So add some better promotions along the way. The food could be better too. The lines, especially the opening game, were way too long. And fans sometimes missed most of the game because of that. Why don't you add this in like rows 9, 10, or sections 9, 10, 11 for the first like 5 rows? Have people bring food to people when they're sitting down, like they do at some of the other stadiums that you've seen in Major League Baseball. I know this is minor league, but I think that can be done. And like I said, the parking can be better, and because a name change is honestly not going to do it. And you charge way too much for the food, especially for French fries that at times were cold. And there were times when the chicken tenders were too bready, amongst other things. Lower your food prices as well. Believe me, those are the type of things you should be doing. Not changing a name or consulting a name branding specialist. How about a managing specialist? Because honestly, with what you're doing, you're going to run my beloved team into the ground if you keep this up. And I say this again out of love, and I love Jane Rogers, and I love the rest of that staff. Do not screw them over, Will. Do not screw them over. They're good people. They need, this organization means a lot to them. And what you're doing is you're screwing with them. To me, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. All right. Now, let's go to the U.S. Open that took place over the course of the last 2 weeks in Flushing Meadows, Queens, New York. To the women's final, we all thought it was going to be the pursuit of 23 for one Serena Williams. Well, ended up not being the case. It was Angelique Kerber who defeated Serena Williams in 3 sets in the semifinals and went on to do the same thing against Karolina Pliskova, 6-3, 4-6, 6-4. Especially in this match, she really was great in terms of making Pliskova get those unforced errors. Pliskova had 17 unforced errors in just the first set. That's 10 more than what Kerber had. It took 2 hours, 7 minutes for the entire match to take place, and at the end, Pliskova had 47 unforced errors. That honestly was the reason why Pliskova lost to Angelique Kerber. By the way, Angelique Kerber has had the season out of nowhere, a great season. She defeats Serena Williams at the Australian Open to win her first major championship ever. She loses at Wimbledon to Serena Williams in the finals back in July, and she defeats Serena Williams in the semifinals, and then 2 days later takes on Karolina Pliskova to win her first U.S. Open title. She's the first German to not only get the number 1 ranking in tennis, but the first German to win the U.S. Open since her beloved countrywoman Steffi Graf, who is tied actually with Serena Williams for the most championships in the open era with 22. It was a great showing from Kerber. I really am happy for her, and I feel for Pliskova. She really gave it her all in this tournament. At the end of the day, though, Angelique Kerber took the title away on Saturday. Now to Sunday was the men's championship between the Serbian Novak Djokovic and the Swiss Stanislaus Wawrinka. After the first set tiebreaker in which Novak Djokovic ended up winning 7-6, Stanislaus Wawrinka goes on a 3-set winning streak, winning 6-4, 7-5, 6-3, and ends up winning the title. It was really just a great showing from him, especially knocking the racket from Djokovic's grasp, hitting it so hard that it ended up taking the ball right at the racket out of Djokovic's hands. And a forehand winner to win a 20-stroke exchange. And, 2 points later, the second set was basically his. It was just a great showing from Stanislaus Wawrinka. He never gave up. Every single hit that Djokovic had, Wawrinka had an answer for him. And what's even crazy about this, Djokovic, if you look at his records at U.S. Open matches, he was 51-0 going into this match. And 53-2 in all finals in Grand Slams. And the 2 finals that Djokovic has lost to, both times to Wawrinka at the 2014 French Open and now this time at the 2016 U.S. Open. So this means for sure, I think that Stanislaus I think he should move up to the number 1 rankings. Probably will move up to number 2 because of this. And that's it for the U.S. Open tennis. So let's go into some college football, starting with the top 25 teams. The Alabama Crimson Tide took care of the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers 38-10. Great debut from Jalen Hurts, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Clemson Tigers yet again struggled to get another victory, winning 30-24. Deshaun Watson, 3 touchdowns, but still, Ray McLeod's embarrassing mental gaffe when he flips the ball at the 1-yard line, cruising to the end zone. He celebrates on a 75-yard punt return when the ball didn't even cross the goal line. Please, Ray, do not make any more mistakes in the future. And because of mistakes like that and so many others, they went from being second in the top 25 to number 5 in week 3. Charleston Southern gets their clock cleaned 52-8 by DeAndre Francois, another redshirt freshman who had a record-setting debut against Ole Miss last week, but still had 3 touchdowns to lead the Seminoles to victory. Number 4, Ohio State Buckeyes do it again, yet another victory. After having 776 yards the previous week against Bowling Green, they end up getting a huge win, 48-3, and it was the defense for Ohio State. 4 interceptions off of Dane Evans in the first half. Actually, 2 of them in the first half on pick sixes. Yikes. Still won 48-3. And they got a big matchup coming up this week against Oklahoma in Norman. Then you had the Wolverines of Michigan defeating the Central Florida Knights 51-14. Spate had 4 touchdown passes, 2 to Jake Butt. I know some people are probably laughing at that name, but he's no laughing matter. This guy can play. He's going to be a first-rounder next year. And Amara Darboh. So congratulations to the Wolverines. They're actually now 4th in the top 25 rankings this week. The Houston Cougars, after having that huge upset victory week 1 against Oklahoma, shuts out Lamar 42-0 despite the 3.5-hour delay due to bad weather. The number 8 Washington Huskies beat the Idaho Vandals 59-14. Jake Browning had us match the school record, 5 touchdowns. Of course, he's now the 5th quarterback to do that in Washington Huskies history, joining Keith Price, Jake Locker, Chris Rowland. Yep. So let's go to the Georgia Bulldogs, who defeated the Nickel State Colonials 26-24, and embarrassing fashion, even for the Jacob Eason era that started at quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs. But Nick Chubb, at the very end of the day, 17 yards rushing in the first half. He did lose a fumble that set up the Dontrell Taylor 4-yard touchdown run late in the half. But they still won by 2 points in Kirby Smart's debut in Athens as the new head coach for the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, the Wisconsin Badgers, coming off their victory week 1 in Green Bay over LSU, take care of the Akron Zips 54-10. Corey Clement ran for 2 scores. Even though he rolled on his left ankle on his last carry, hopefully he'll be fine for week 3. As for the Texas Longhorns, with their first big ranking in the top 25 since 2013, after that 50-47 showing week 1 against Notre Dame, they defeat the UTEP Miners 41-7. Shane Buechele, 244 yards, 4 touchdowns, another freshman quarterback in the Texas offense. Congrats. The Louisville Cardinals went up to Syracuse this past Friday, took care of business in the Carrier Dome 62-28. A record day for Lamar Jackson, the quarterback for the Louisville Cardinals. 4 touchdown runs and threw for another 5 total touchdowns, 610 total yards, the most ever in ACC history. Now the TCU Horned Frogs are upset in a huge way by the Arkansas Razorbacks in double overtime, 41-38. Austin Allen, 5 yards for the winning score. The Iowa Hawkeyes take out the Iowa State Cyclones for the Battle of the Cy-Hawk Trophy. C.J. Beathard's 3 touchdowns and 235 yards. Matt Vandenberg, 129 yards receiving and a touchdown on top of the Hawkeyes winning 42-3. Matt Vandenberg, congratulations. He just proposed to his girlfriend, and she said yes. Best of luck to the both of you in the future. As for the Tennessee Volunteers, Virginia Tech Hokies, their match took place this past Saturday at Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee, setting an all-new attendance record for NCAA football games. 156,000. That's right, 990 attended this game, and the Volunteers gave fans a really good victory, a 45-24 showing against Virginia Tech. 3 touchdown passes from Joshua Dobbs, and he ran for 5 total touchdowns. Unbelievable. That attendance record actually was broke the Michigan Notre Dame game where they had 112,000. Speaking of Notre Dame, number 18 in the country defeated Nevada Wolfpack 39-10. Deshaun Kaiser, 2 touchdown passes. Josh Adams, 106 yards on 10 carries. They got a big matchup coming up this week from South Bend against the Michigan State Spartans. Cannot wait. The Ole Miss Rebels, coming off their first week loss against Florida State, well, take care of the Wofford Terriers of the FCS. Chad Kelly, nephew, of course, of Jim Kelly, 219 yards, 3 touchdown passes, leading them to a 38-13 victory. And now they got Alabama coming to meet them this week. Another big matchup to look out for. Texas A&M Aggies defeat the Prairie View A&M Panthers 67-0. I just don't get it. You know what? These mid-level schools or the teams that are in FCS play the big teams from the Power 5 conferences. 1, so they can go there and get their butts kicked, and 2, to collect a big paycheck. But sometimes, is it worth it to be humiliated, especially outgained 672 yards, 205 yards? Well, I should ask them. Now, the LSU Tigers, coming off that humiliating loss on the road week 1 against Wisconsin, take care of the Jacksonville State Gamecocks 34-13. And Danny Etling, who was the backup quarterback for Brandon Harris, is now going to be the starter after 3 straight scoring drives. Basically got the LSU crowd at Death Valley cheering heavily. So we know, Brandon Harris, you're done for this year. As for the Central Michigan Chippewas, on a bad technical call, a misinterpreted rule, they beat the Oklahoma State Cowboys in Stillwater 30-27 when on a lateral and Hail Mary, when both should have never taken place, just because Oklahoma State, with 4 seconds to go, the quarterback, Mason Rudolph, throws the ball out of bounds, and therefore they thought the game was going to be end on an infraction. And usually games are not supposed to, but then there was a lot of talk back and forth between the Big 12 and the NCAA. It's Article 3B of the NCAA rules are when the referee declares that the game is ended, the score is final. So basically the ref can end the game on an infraction. So Central Michigan should have never had an opportunity to get the ball, especially Cooper Rush throwing a Hail Mary pass to crawl inside the 10. Should have never happened. Oh, well. The Baylor Bears took care of the SMU Mustangs 40-13. Especially Seth Russell, the starting quarterback, 2 touchdowns, and he ran for a score. As for the Virginia Cavaliers, they went to Eugene, Oregon to face the Ducks of Oregon, and Dakota Prokop, the FCS graduate transfer from Portland State, leads them to victory 44-26, 331 yards, 3 touchdowns, all touchdowns to different receivers, including Royce Freeman. And Freeman actually ran for 207 yards, 2 scores. And Devon Allen, if that name's not familiar to you, he was an Olympic hurdler who was actually competed for the U.S. at Rio, placed 5th in 110 meters. So he missed the medal by 2 spots. Yep. Congratulations to Oregon. As for the final game, the Miami Hurricanes, my beloved city, took on the Florida Atlantic Owls of Boca Raton, another beloved city. Great shopping if you're ever in Boca. Well, Florida Atlantic Owls lost 30-10. Mark Walton, 155 yards, 4 touchdowns. Brad Kaya was 17-31 for 191 yards, but he got picked off twice in the game. Miami, in the first 2 games in the Mark Richt era, have had 108 points. That's a new record. So congratulations to him. As for the New York Mets, the New York Mets swept the Cincinnati Reds all 3 games this week and took 2 out of 3 against the Atlanta Braves, while the New York Yankees swept the Toronto Blue Jays all 3 games and took 3 out of 4 from the Tampa Bay Rays. In this coming week, of course, both right now the Mets are holding on to that second wild card spot in the National League by just a half game over the St. Louis Cardinals. They start a 3-game set this week, including tonight against the Washington Nationals, and then they're off on Thursday, and they're back at home this weekend against the Minnesota Twins. The Nationals is going to be a tough series, but I think against the Twins, one of the worst teams, actually the worst team in the league, they should be able to take 2 out of 3. As for the New York Yankees this coming week, they start a 3-game set at home today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. I believe it's against the I'll get to that in a bit, but I know Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Oh, sorry. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they got the Los Angeles Dodgers at home, and then they go on the road Thursday to Sunday against the Red Sox. And the Red Sox have a 4-game lead over the Yankees in the American League East Division. So the fact that the Yankees are only a game behind in the pursuit of the second AL wild card spot, and the fact that they're only 4 games back of the Red Sox, and the fact that the Red Sox begin this week against the Orioles, it's plausible the Yankees have a chance of getting the division. Not so for the Mets. That would take a miracle screw-up on the Nationals' part in 8 games for them to lose and the Mets to make up that kind of ground. So the NL East is not even a reality for the Mets. Their best shot is that second wild card spot, and they're also a game and a half behind the Giants for the number 1 wild card spot, which would be crucial for them to get, considering they don't want to go to San Francisco in the playoffs in an even year, because 2016 is an even year. Let's not forget the Giants won in 2010, 2012, and 2014. Possibly this year, but who knows. Now, as for the Mets, even with the injury to Neil Walker, you have to give it up to Yoenis Cespedes, who has 30 around 30 home runs, and the rest of the squad. They're piling up home runs left and right. They actually are going to break their record from 2006. Yeah, I think they're only 10 homers away from doing that. And Bartolo Colon winning his performance in the last 2 games has been great. Seth Lugo in his first 4 major league starts. As for the Yankees themselves, Gary Sanchez, as well as Jacoby Ellsbury. I'm just so excited for New York baseball that it's not irrelevant now in September, that things could actually come into place. As for the coming week for the New York Giants, as I forgot to mention earlier, they are playing the New Orleans Saints to kick off their home season at MetLife Stadium. And if I'm the Giants, they want to win this game. Just keep throwing the ball, get to Sterling Shepard, throw to Victor Cruz and Odell Beckham, and really the defense will have to pressure Drew Brees and just sack him as many times as humanly possible and really confuse him. As for the Saints, if they really want to win, run the ball, pound the ball with Mark Ingram. I can't stress that enough. And on top of that, if I'm one of the cornerbacks, try and get in Odell Beckham's head. Really try to confuse him and make sure that you set the tone. Whoever the cornerback that's guarding Odell Beckham, don't do it by yourself. Have a safety to back you up. Having one player guarding Odell Beckham, that's a recipe for disaster for the Saints and Dennis Allen's defense. Some other things that are exciting coming up. I believe we're into the final weeks of golf. We're in the final weeks of NASCAR racing, and it's going to be another exciting week for sports. And the next wrestling event will be WWE Clash Champions in less than 2 weeks. Oh, and if you want, just to let you know, next episode of the Blitz Zone is coming up Friday, so tune in this Friday, 7 to 8. Channels 37 on Verizon, 1997 Time Warner. For all the hardworking people at CTV, for Robert, my main man behind the camera, and to all the good people watching this show, thank you for watching tonight's episode of In the Bleachers. And hopefully next week we'll see Jamie Hickson on the air, and we'll see you Friday for the Blitz Zone. Good night, folks. Peace, Staten Island.